My brother always said I wasn't CEO material for years. He treated me like the invisible assistant while he played the successful heir. But at the Christmas board meeting when he tried to fire me for incompetence, I played the recording of him embezzling company funds. The shock on his face was priceless. That day, I didn't just save our family business, I became the boss he never saw coming. The Harrison Family Enterprises Christmas party was always a spectacle of false smiles and hidden tensions. As I arranged the final documents in the boardroom, my brother Mark held court by the champagne fountain, laughing too loudly with investors who barely knew my name. For 10 years, I'd been the quiet Harrison, the daughter who handled the boring details while Mark played the charismatic heir. Our parents built this tech company from our garage. But after their sudden passing, Mark took control with the confidence of someone who believed birthright trumped capability. He'd mock my spreadsheets, dismiss my ideas in meetings, and tell everyone I was better suited to administrative work. Meanwhile, the company's profits mysteriously dwindled while Mark's lifestyle grew increasingly lavish. The final straw came when I discovered discrepancies in the offshore accounts, millions missing, covered by creative accounting that would have made our accountant father weep. When I confronted Mark, he smiled that condescending smile. "You've always been paranoid, Sarah. Stick to what you're good for." But I wasn't paranoid, I was prepared. For months, I've been gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. That moment arrived when Mark announced an emergency board meeting to discuss restructuring, code for pushing me out entirely. The emergency meeting was scheduled for December 23rd. Strategically timed so any fallout would be buried in holiday chaos. Mark arrived wearing his favorite power suit, the one he bought after firing our most loyal employee last year. The board members, mostly his golf buddies, and yes men filed in with holiday cheer, completely unaware of the storm brewing. "Thank you all for coming during the festive season," Mark began, his voice oozing false sincerity. "Unfortunately, we have some difficult decisions to make regarding company leadership." I sat quietly, my hands folded over the tablet containing enough evidence to destroy him. For 6 months, I'd worked with a forensic accountant, tracing the money trails Mark thought he'd hidden. We discovered he'd been siphoning funds through shell companies, falsifying expense reports, and even selling our intellectual property to competitors. My investigations started subtly. I noticed small things first: unexplained business trips, mysterious consulting fees to companies that didn't exist. Then came the bigger red flags: duplicate payments, inflated invoices, and secret meetings with our biggest rival. Mark had gotten sloppy, assuming nobody would question the golden boy. The breakthrough came when our former IT director, whom Mark had fired for budget cuts, reached out to me. "Your brother made me install spyware on your computer," he confessed. He was terrified you'd discover his side deals. That confession led me to hidden server logs, deleted emails, and financial records Mark thought were permanently erased. As Mark began his presentation about necessary cuts, I watched the board members nod along. He flashed slides showing fabricated performance metrics and doctored financial statements. "Sometimes," he said, looking directly at me, "we must make tough choices to protect the company our parents built." That's when I stood up. "You're right, Mark. Some choices are tough. Like choosing between family loyalty and company survival." The room fell silent. Mark's smile tightened. "Sarah, this isn't the time for emotional outbursts." "Oh, this isn't emotional," I said calmly. "This is factual. Would you like to explain why $3.2 million disappeared into Carson Holdings last quarter? A company that, according to incorporation documents, you own entirely?" The color drained from his face. The board members shifted uncomfortably. The Christmas decorations around the room suddenly felt like props in a play that was about to have a very different ending than Mark had scripted. Mark's composure cracked for just a second before he forced a laugh. "Carson Holdings? Sarah, that's one of our legitimate vendors. I think the stress is getting to you." "Oh, I have all the stress documents right here," I said, connecting my tablet to the projector. The screen behind him lit up with bank transfers, incorporation papers, and signed contracts, all bearing his signature. "Shall we start with the $500,000 marketing fee that somehow ended up buying your Miami condo?" The board members leaned forward, their holiday cheer evaporating. Mr. Henderson, our oldest board member who'd known me since childhood, spoke first. "Mark, what is she talking about? Fabrications?" Mark snapped, his voice rising. She's been jealous of my position since our parents died. She'd say anything to take what's rightfully mine. I clicked to the next slide, a recorded phone call from 3 months earlier. Mark's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. Just make sure the transfer goes through before the quarterly audit. And remember, if anyone asks, it's for the Singapore expansion. The room went utterly silent. You could hear the ice melting in water glasses. Mark stared at the speakers as if they betrayed him personally. Playing dirty, Sarah? He whispered, his voice trembling with rage. Secret recordings? That's illegal. Actually, said a voice from the doorway, we authorized it. Our company's lead attorney, Miss Chen, entered with 2 federal agents. When Sarah came to us with her concerns 3 months ago, we worked with authorities to build a proper case. Mark looked like a trapped animal. You set me up? Your own brother? No, Mark, I said, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. You set yourself up. I just stopped you from destroying everything our parents built. I continued the presentation, revealing layer after layer of his deception. The luxury cars bought with company funds, the vacations disguised as business trips, the secret deals with competitors that cost us millions in lost revenue. With each revelation, the board members looked more horrified. The final blow came when I showed them the modified will our parents had written months before their accident, the one Mark had hidden that named me as the true successor, with him receiving a generous but limited trust fund. You lied about everything, Mr. Henderson said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Even about your own parents' final wishes. Mark's defiance finally crumbled. They never appreciated me. Dad always said Sarah had the better business mind. I was just protecting what should have been mine from the beginning. That's where you're wrong, Mark, I said, pulling out one final document. Our parents loved us equally. But they trusted me with the business because they knew I valued people over power. Something you never understood. As the federal agents moved toward him, Mark made one last desperate appeal. You'll ruin the company with this scandal. The stock will crash. Our employees will lose jobs. That's already handled, I said, nodding to Miss Chen. We've been working with the SEC for months. The official statement goes out this afternoon, along with our restructuring plan and my appointment as interim CEO. The board members didn't need to vote, the evidence spoke for itself. One by one, they stood and moved to my side of the table, their loyalties shifting in the space of minutes that felt like hours. Mark was led away, his Christmas spirit replaced by the cold reality of handcuffs. The party decorations suddenly looked cheap and tawdry. Like costume jewelry on a grave dot. As the door closed behind him, the room fell into a heavy silence. Then Mr. Henderson spoke. Sarah, what happens now? Now, I said, looking at the faces of the people who had underestimated me for years, we get to work. And we do what our parents would have wanted, we build something that lasts. In the weeks that followed, Harrison Enterprises underwent the most significant transformation in its history. The stock dipped initially as predicted, but then soared when we announced our transparency initiative and new ethical business practices. The employees who had suspected Mark's corruption for years rallied behind the new leadership with renewed energy. Mark faced multiple charges of embezzlement, fraud, and securities violations. He eventually took a plea deal, avoiding a public trial that would have further damaged the company. I made sure he received the best legal representation, not for his sake, but for our parents' legacy. Some things are more important than revenge. The most surprising development came from our competitors, who respected our handling of the situation. Several even became partners, impressed by our commitment to cleaning house rather than covering up the scandal. Personally, the journey was both painful and liberating. I moved into our parents' old office but kept it mostly unchanged, a daily reminder of the values that truly mattered. The expensive art Mark had collected was replaced with photos of our factory teams and R&D departments, the people who actually built our success. My first act as CEO was establishing the Harrison Family Ethics Foundation, dedicating a percentage of our profits to supporting business ethics education. The second was promoting the junior accountants who had helped me uncover the truth, creating a new culture where speaking up was rewarded rather than punished. Mark and I don't speak anymore. He's serving his sentence in a white-collar facility, and I hear he's started reading our father's old business books. Maybe someday he'll understand that leadership isn't about what you take, It's about what you build for others. The Christmas after the takeover, we held our company party in the same boardroom. This time, the decorations felt genuine, the laughter real. When I stood to give my speech, I didn't talk about profits or market share. I talked about integrity, about the courage to do what's right even when it's hard, and about honoring the people who came before us. Our parents didn't build this company to make us rich, I told our team. They built it to make a difference. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Later that evening, as I looked out at the city lights from my office window, our old IT director stopped by. You know, he said, your brother once told me you'd never have what it takes to run this company. I smiled, thinking of the journey. He was right in a way. I don't have what it takes to run it his way, but I have everything it takes to run it the right way. The truth is, I didn't become CEO to prove anything to Mark or anyone else. I became CEO because it was the right thing to do for our employees, for our customers, and for the parents who taught me that character counts more than credentials. Today, Harrison Enterprises is stronger than ever. Not despite the scandal, but because of how we handled it. We're living proof that when you choose integrity over image and people over power, you build something that can withstand any storm. And every morning when I walk past the portrait of our parents in the lobby, I hear my father's voice reminding me, the measure of a leader isn't in the title before their name, but in the legacy after it.